Live from the slightly twisted deck bar, it's the Poojie Podcast with Justin Lemie.
The Poojie Podcast is proudly sponsored by Cimarron Golf Club, located in Jacksonville, Florida, off County Road 210, just west of St. John's Parkway.
What is going on, everybody? Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Poojie Podcast. Poojie on vacation, but nonetheless bringing you the same great content for Week 10 NFL action starting tonight, Thursday night, with a fantastic game between the Colts and the Titans. One of the better Thursday night matchups we've had thus far this season, and probably one of the better Thursday night matchups we will have throughout the rest of the season. Colts versus Titans, big game in the AFC South this evening, Thursday night. But first, if you follow the Poojie Podcast on Instagram, you too could have gone 5-1 in 6 picks with Maction football over Tuesday and Wednesday night. Fantastic feeling there, getting some picks correct in Maction, getting that bankroll up, leading into a fantastic weekend of college football and NFL. And if you were up last night, Wednesday night, the Western Michigan-Toledo game, a fantastic finish there, crazy ending. Western Michigan storming back with under 2 minutes left to score 2 touchdowns in the last 2 minutes of the game, or last minute of the game, really, recovering an onside kick, fake spike for a touchdown to win the game. Just insane. That helped us cover the -1.5 there. So follow the Poojie Podcast on Instagram or Poojie Parlay on Twitter if you want to win some money. I'm giving out free money to all of you. Follow my picks if you'd like. So we do have Week 10 NFL action. Actually, exciting episode here because I am not hosting this episode. I am merely just doing the intro. Thank you to Jacob and the rest of the NFL panel, including Sam, Verbin, Matt, Steven, other Matt Morabito, if he's jumping on. I don't know who's jumping on. I'm recording this before they record theirs. I have not seen their episode, but thank you to them for doing this for me. But I just wanted to put a quick intro in there. My Week 10 Intrigue matchup, Seattle at Los Angeles Rams. I think that's a great matchup in the NFC West. I think it's a big statement game for the Rams. Seattle coming off a tough loss to the Buffalo Bills, who seem to have found some offensive life. Can Jared Goff and the Rams find the same power on offense that Josh Allen and the Bills did? That's going to be the big question. I think a lot of people expect the Rams offense to be a little bit better than what it has been, but this is going to be a big game to draw both teams to 6-3 if the Rams can pull out victorious there. Some fantasy boomers I like this week. The running backs in the Jaguars versus Packers game. I think James Robinson is going to feast, and I think Aaron Jones might be the #1 fantasy running back this week in fantasy football. And who knows, Devontae Adams could feast as well. That's a great matchup for the Packers. So look for that game. Some sleepers. I'm going to go with the receivers in the Pittsburgh versus Cincinnati game. I think this is going to be a offensive matchup. I think the Pittsburgh receivers, whether it's Claypool, Schuster, Johnson, who knows who it's going to be. I think they are going to have a field day against Cincinnati's defense. It is a rivalry game within the NFC North. The Steelers looked a little shaky versus the Cowboys last week, pulled away with a victory there over Garrett Gilbert and the Dallas Cowboys. But I do think that the Steelers will win this game in a high-scoring affair. Look for Joe Burrow. This is one of his biggest defensive tests he'll be facing this season against the Steelers. And can T. Higgins pop off? Can Tyler Boyd pop off? Can A.J. Green pop off? Who knows? I think the receivers in this matchup are going to have some good numbers in fantasy. But other than that, I'm going to go enjoy vacation. I just wanted to drop in. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. And thank you to Jacob in the NFL panel for taking over from here. So, Jacob, take it away, man.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to a special edition of the Poojie List Podcast. I will be your host today, Jacob Yurtical. And you know what? Thank you, Poojie, for letting me host. I know you're on vacation right now, but enjoy yourself. We got it taken care of over here. I'm going to get right into things. I'm going to start with our recap of the Jacksonville Jaguars game against the Texans. You know, for me, it was kind of personally a great situation because our 6th-round rookie QB, he looked pretty good. But you know what? He didn't look good enough to win the game. And right now, that's kind of what I'm going for. Chark exploded onto the scene. James Robinson still looked good. But the defense, it just did not have enough to keep things going as normal. It did hold them under 30 points the first time in like 6 games. But, Sam, do you have any comments on this game? I know that you were probably watching too. What did you think of the game?
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm just going to piggyback off what you said about DJ Chark. I mean, man, if anyone had any doubts about this guy being a #1 receiver, I mean, they can just, let those go away because, man, this guy works. He works with this Jake Luton guy. He worked with Minshew, timing routes, but Jake Luton just kind of puts the ball there at whatever time during the play, and Chark makes the plays, and he had his biggest game of the season. So I think it's good for him. The Luton's going to be targeting him a lot. Laviska Shenault did go out early with an injury, so that is going to, obviously get more targets for Chark. But I think he looked really good, and I think we can be comfortable with him as our number one moving forward as Jags fans.
Yeah, he did look pretty good. Like I said, the defense didn't do too hot, but I was really happy. Miles Jack, he's back. He's healthy. He looked like a baller. He looked like a beast. But I kind of want to move on from our game, and let's talk about some fantasy. I know we talked some fantasy last week. We didn't do that much before. But do any of you guys have any, like, boom, bust picks? I think I'm going to switch to gallery view real quick and just show everybody. So how about we start with Matt, since you're in my upper left. Who do you have as any boom, bust, sleeper picks for fantasy this week?
Yeah, so I got one for all three. So I got my boom this week. He's finally back healthy. Austin Hooper, tight end for the Browns. I think he's going to be heavily targeted with OBJ coming out, maybe second behind Jarvis Landry. But, talking about the Texans so far, I mean, they don't do very well in pass coverage, and so far they've given up in PPR at least one touchdown or 8 points against tight ends. So I think Austin Hooper is going to be a huge impact in this game for them. My bust this week, I'm going with Derek Carr. Statistically, throughout his career, he struggles against the Broncos, and now the Broncos are getting back both of their cornerbacks. So I think it's going to be tough for him. I think traditionally it's going to go with it. I say he's on my bench on one of my teams, so I would not suggest starting him. I think he's going to struggle. And then my sleeper, I'm going to go with Duke Johnson, also from the Texans. David Johnson is not playing this week, potentially with being a concussion protocol. Duke is probably going to take a lot of the load, as Coach Cromell thinks he can handle it. He can be a starter if he was anywhere else. I think he's going to be a heavy workforce for the Texans, and I think he's going to have a big game.
Yeah, I agree with those picks. I really do like Austin Hooper as well. What about you, Steven? Who do you have for any boom bust sleeper picks? What do you got?
Yeah, so my fantasy boom for this week, look out for Drew Lock to have a big game. He had a big game last week. I think he will have another big game this week. Obviously, dependent on the status of Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy also had a really good game last week. Just waiting to see about – I guess he has a shoulder, so he was a limited participant at practice today. But hopefully Jeudy can play, and I think that offense will hum. Looks like Noah Fant is back healthy too. No coincidence that I have all three of those guys in my lineup this week, but I think, Drew Lock is in for a big game. My fantasy sleeper, I'm actually going to go with the defense. The Eagles against the Giants this week. Last time this matchup happened, the Eagles had 21. No coincidence that I had the Eagles defense, but I think look for the Eagles to have another big week against the Giants.
Yeah, that matchup should be pretty good. That's for the division, right? So, Sam, what about you? Do you have any fantasy picks this week?
Yeah, for sure. Coming off that bye, the Eagles, I mean, they're going to have a great defense, but I think they're going to get their tight ends back on track. Dallas Goedert, has been hurt a lot of the season. He came back the game before the bye. It was kind of just a body out there, but I expect him to be back at full form this week. Carson Wentz getting hotter as the season goes on. He loves to target the tight ends. I'd like to see him have a big game. My bust might be a surprise to some people, but I got Lamar Jackson actually busting this week. I think that Bill Belichick's going to sell out against him, make him throw the ball around, make the running backs do some work for that team. He's not going to let Lamar Jackson beat him, and they're going to have Cam Newton actually get more rushing touchdowns than Lamar is. But my sleeper this week, going to throw in a Mike Williams sleeper against the Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins kind of getting hype, their defense, considering last year they were 31st in the league. So I'd like to see, Mike Williams, 6'6" frame posted up against those kind of small corners in Xavier Howard. Byron Jones. I'd like to see him get some deep catches down the field because I know Justin Herbert's going to be wanting to go deep. But I also want to piggyback off what Matt said about the Duke Johnson pick. I think that's really interesting, one, because he's playing his old team in the Cleveland Browns. Maybe a little, he's like, you guys should have played me a lot more. He comes out with a full workload and tears it up. I like that.
Hopefully, if it's a late game situation, Mike Williams doesn't drop the ball this time.
You had to go there, Steven. Mike Williams looks good, though. I'll be honest. For my picks, boom, I want to have two players, Goff and Robert Woods. If you want to throw in, Cooper Kupp in there, go ahead. Seattle's defense, their pass defense is atrocious. So start those guys. My bust pick, I think Kenny Golladay didn't practice today, and so Marvin Jones looks to be the number one guy there this week. But I don't think he's really gonna produce, even though he is the main guy. He's not really done much. He did have a touchdown last week, but this is a tougher matchup. I'm really excited about this sleeper, and it's bad because it's against my team. If he plays, and I think he's set to play, I'm really excited for Alan Lazard. He's coming back. He was balling at the beginning of the year before he got hurt and got put on IR, and the Jags defense is so atrocious that I'm sure he just goes off. So those were some good picks for fantasy. I know you guys heard Justin's picks in the intro. So why don't we go from fantasy to intrigue matchups? I'm going to go back to speaker view for y'all. How about we start with Matt again? Matt, what is your intrigue matchup for this week?
So my intrigue matchup is going to be the Bills versus the Cardinals. So far this season, Josh Allen has played probably his best games against the NFC West. He balled out at home against the Rams, and he balled out at home just recently against the Seahawks. Might as well just go ahead and keep it going against a Kyler Murray team that looks pretty good. Unfortunately, they gave up 34 points to the Dolphins at home, which was a little surprise to me. I think it's going to be a good game. Josh Allen will do his thing. I think if Kyler Murray can get the ball a lot more to DeAndre Hopkins, who only had 3 catches for 30 yards last week, I think that was a huge loss right there. If he can get him going, I think it's going to be a high anticipated game. I think the over for this one, I think it's around 56, 57. So any gamblers out there, I would bet the over in this game. Don't know who's going to win, but it's going to be a good one.
That's going to be that's going to be a very good matchup. What about you, Steven? Do you have a good intrigue matchup this week for us?
Yeah, look out for tonight's game, actually, the Thursday night game. Colts, Titans, divisional matchup in the AFC South. Winner will take the division lead. So, Titans can strengthen their lead tonight if they beat the Colts, and the Colts can tighten things up and get the tiebreaker there. Even Vegas has it as being a pretty close game. The line is currently Indy -1, so definitely intriguing there. I'm leaning towards the Colts, but I can see it going either way for sure.
Yeah, and it's looking like that matchup is going to be interesting for me just because Derrick Henry is a baller. He's not done what he's done since last year, and that's a very good Colts run defense. Sam, what about you? What's your intrigue matchup for this week?
Yeah, I really like that matchup, though, real quick, between the Titans and the Colts. I think Derrick Henry has to have a big game, and I think that Darius Leonard in that run D, like you said, is pretty formidable. And the Titans, if they don't get Derrick Henry going, they have to pass, 30, 35 times a game, 40 times a game. It's rough on them. So that's not my intrigue matchup. I'm going back to the Philadelphia Eagles and the Giants just because I think it's a really big game for that division. The number one person in that league, that division has, 3 wins, I think? So it's still up in the air. The Giants, they suck, but it's a really big division rivalry. So we're going to see a lot of good play from Daniel Jones. We're going to see a lot of good play from Carson Wentz. And I want to see the tight ends for Philadelphia go off because I have them in fantasy. There, I admit it.
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't want to root for their own fantasy team, right? My intrigue matchup, I'm going with 2 rookie quarterbacks. I'm going with the Chargers at the Dolphins. the Dolphins' defense is pretty good. I don't think many people thought it was going to be going into this year, but it is. But Justin Herbert, then again, he's balling out too. He's had a lot of heartbreaking losses, so many for a rookie season. But right now, he's going to be playing Tua and O. Tua, he didn't do much in his first game. Last game, he did more. But with that defense behind him, I just got to go with the home team. I got to go with Miami. Fins up. I know Zach. I know everybody in Miami's down for that because the Jags are just trash at this point. But those are some really good matchups. I think Justin would be proud. I think we hit it on the head. The Colts do play the Titans tonight as of this recording. So let's see what you got, what you said, Steven. I think that Derrick Henry is going to get stopped, though. That's just my opinion.
Going back real quick, Sam actually made a really good point. So just some quick stats for tonight's game. This season, the Colts are only allowing 83.6 rushing yards per game. The last type of matchup like that was, Steelers and Titans. And the Steelers held Derrick Henry to like 60 yards rushing. So I think that's a really big key for the Colts defense to see if they can do something similar to what the Steelers defense did. And also the Titans are allowing almost 300 yards passing. So old man Phillip, old man River, let's see if he's got anything left to throw the ball. I think he's going to have some opportunity to pass. But a key injury for them, Jack Doyle is out, I think, concussion protocol from last week. So, might not have the tight end. So look, see if he gets like Nyheim Hines and Wilkins and Taylor out of the passing game.
Yeah, I know Jonathan Taylor has not been doing that well, but he has a really good, string of matchups ahead of him. But
he hasn't. I have him in fantasy. No, he has not.
Oh my gosh, I hear you, man. But he's got a good match. He's got a good set of games coming up.
Whopping 6 points last week.
Well, we'll see. Going to our matchup though, the Jags travel up to Lambeau Field to play the Packers, and I don't know. This is going to look like a terrible game for us, I'm sure. But why don't we make some picks? Why don't we preview it? Sam, do you want to lead the way on this right now?
Oh shoot, man. Let's go 47-15. And the Jags put up 15 points somehow and we lose, obviously, but I got a real good hot take for this game, man. Some of y'all Jags fans might have forgot about old Mercedes Lewis. Man, it's a revenge game for him. I bet he's still pissed about it. I know I'd be if I played on the same team for friggin' 10 years. So, yeah, and I'm projecting him, hot take, 2 touchdowns versus the Jaguars, especially with Robert Tonyan downgraded to questionable this week. You're going to see a lot of Mercedes Lewis out there.
Yeah, I think that's fair. That was a good score prediction. I myself said 41-24 Packers. This is a game, going back to fantasy, start your Packers. Just like Sam was saying about like this score 40-something. I don't know who's going to score, but a lot of people are going to score for the Packers. But then again, I think a lot of Jags can do well. I think Luton will have a good game. I think Robinson, Chark, as long as he's healthy, because at the end of the day, we're going to be playing catch up. But 41-24. And how about Matt? How about you give me a prediction for the Jags game, but I know you're a Ravens fan, so also give me a quick prediction for your game as well.
Yeah, so I don't know how I feel right now about the Jags going into Lambeau Field. It's going to be a tough one. Don't expect it to go well, so I'm going to go with Packers 38-10. That's what I'm going to go with. My hot take, Ludden throws 2 bad interceptions, but that's all I'm going to say about that. So my Ravens, huge bounce back win last week against the Colts. This week, man, I'm kind of upset what Sam said about Lamar Jackson being a bust. I think he's going to ball out in this game. Patriots just haven't looked good. Cam Newton didn't wake up Monday night until the second half against the 0-9 Jets. And he's going to be playing against the number 1 defense right now in the NFL, according to a lot of stats. So I don't think it's going to be good for Cam Newton at all. I think Ravens are going to win by – I'm going 3 touchdowns. I'm going 35-14 Ravens.
You gotta have faith in your team, right? So how about Steven? Same with Matt. Can you give us Jags prediction and you're a Steelers fan, so why don't you give us a prediction for their game as well?
Yeah, sure. Jags, sorry, Jags fans. I don't see any good news coming your way other than the fact that you guys will be one game closer to that number one overall pick that's looming. My hot take is Packers will have more Lambeau leaps than the Jags have touchdowns on Sunday. I think it's just going to be an absolute bloodbath. But I think, like you guys mentioned, I think Luton has another good game, and James Robinson, fuck that guy. He screwed me in fantasy last week. I think he has another good game too because, who else is going to play well for the Jags? And then moving on, Steelers, Bengals. As long as Steelers take care of business, that should be a win. But, I called my shot early last week and still have to send in the Chuck video. But, because the Steelers, tried to blow last week's matchup against the Cowboys. So hopefully that doesn't happen again. But they're at home against the Bengals. So division matchup, so should be able to take advantage there. But Steelers might be creeping ahead to next week when they play the Jags, so hopefully not.
Yeah, I agree with you on James Robinson. I actually wrote this down earlier. I saw this on ESPN. The Packers have allowed 11 rushing touchdowns. That's the most in the league. So I imagine that James Robinson should get in the end zone. But, yeah, this doesn't look like a good week for us. This is Luton's opportunity to potentially audition to be the starter the rest of the year. But I just kind of want to give a hot take myself for this game. He looked like he had, a pretty good zip on the ball, and I think Chark got a little bit of good play out of that because I know he's playing with an injured quarterback. I actually think as long as Chark is healthy, because I know he was banged up in practice or something, but he goes for 120 yards and 2 touchdowns, and I know that sounds crazy, but this Green Bay Packers defense isn't really that great. The offense is amazing, but I think we're going to be playing catch-up, and he's going to go off. I'm going to switch it back to grid view, and if any of you guys have any other stuff for this week that you think you want to say, let's shoot it off right now.
Yeah, I got something. I think you're 100% fully crazy on the whole DJ Chark going over 100 yards. Listen, he's matched up against Jair Alexander. Jake Luton might be one of the most inaccurate quarterbacks I've ever seen play. There's going to be picks all over the place. The Jags are going to want to control the clock with James Robinson, and they're going to want to minimize the errors on offense. That's the only way we even have an inkling of thought to win this game. It's just there's no other way. And if Jake Luton throws for more than 2 touchdowns, you guys can call me out on the next episode that I'm a crazy person. But this week, Jacob, there's just no way.
Well, I mean, is Laviska gonna play? Is he healthy?
Yeah, he's gonna play. I got him and James Robinson in both fantasy leagues, by the way. Pretty good scoop at the beginning of the year, but Laviska is actually looking on track to play this week. He's practicing as of today.
I hope so. I mean, that hamstring. I'm like, DJ Chark might be our only guy. What about Matt? What do you think? You have any other comments, hot takes?
Yeah, so going back to my Intrigue matchup, I think Josh Allen and Colin Murray both go for 4 total touchdowns.
Oh, so they each have 4, so 8
they'll
combined?
each have 4. They'll each have 4 total. It's going to be a high-scoring game. Defense is just throw the defense out the window.
I agree. Josh Allen just had a field day against the Seahawks, and Kyler Murray's having a crazy good season. Steven, you got any hot takes or any other comments for this week?
Looking at the rest of the matchups this week, interested to see how Dalvin Cook keeps it going. He's been cooking, no pun intended, the last couple of weeks. So I want to see if he keeps it going. He's been a monster, and when healthy, he's a proven commodity. And people are starting to talk about maybe adding him to the MVP discussion. I mean, obviously, I think the front runners right now are Mahomes and Russell Wilson, but we got to start taking Dalvin Cook seriously as well.
Yeah. It would be really cool to see
points.
Wait, what was that?
He gave me 70 points 2 weeks ago and 64 last week in PPR.
Yeah.
So let's see how much he can keep it going.
Oh, agreed. I said if he's healthy, I think he can keep it going. But, yeah, agreed.
Yeah, it'd be pretty crazy to see a running back actually have the shot at MVP with quarterbacks really getting it most of the time nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, last one that was close was Todd Gurley.
Yep.
With Tom Brady, I think, in 2016.
I mean, Dalvin Cook, he's remained healthy since he came back, so it's like What about
That's
Sam?
That's the biggest thing for him, is just staying healthy.
So we all good, guys? You guys got everything out of your system? Hot take-wise, spicy episode. I really think Chuck's going to go off, but that's why it's a hot take. If it wasn't a hot take, I wouldn't have said it. But thank you guys for watching. Thank you, Justin, for letting me host. I know you're enjoying vacation, but hey, your boys got you. Thank you guys once again for watching. We'll see you next week. Don't watch the Jags game. Watch the Intrigue matchups. Peace.
So there you have it, Week 10 NFL preview. Fantastic episode done there. Thank you to Jacob, Matt Maynard, Steven, as well as Sam. Sam, you've been Mr. Dependable on the podcast recently. Luke, I know you're on vacation as well, so hope you're enjoying your time on vacation. But Jacob, thank you for putting that together and getting our Week 10 preview done. I loved what you guys had to say there. I just had the chance to watch it. Some great fantasy information as well, coming out with a lot of different statistics to back up what you guys were saying. Maynard, loved your Duke Johnson sleeper. I think that could be one to watch. A little revenge game for him against the Cleveland Browns. Sam, your sleeper, Mike Williams, he's been popping off in fantasy the past few weeks. He's really getting some playing time there with Justin Herbert, targeting him a lot every week. But like Jacob said, Herbert dealing with a lot of rookie losses, a lot of really difficult ways to lose games. It's been tough for him. But nonetheless, fantastic episode. Hopefully, for my fantasy team's sake, Goddard does get targeted a lot. Hopefully, Marvin Jones isn't a bust because he's on my team as well. But a lot of great intrigue matchups. Like I said, mine was Rams versus Seahawks. Jacob, I know you had a lot of the Rams offense as your booms for the week, which I can only agree with. I think that's going to be a highly powered offensive matchup between those two teams. And Matt, I love you throwing in a little bit of the betting tips there as well. Bills at Cardinals over 56. Steven, you took Colts -1, and that hit last night, 34-17 Colts. So you hit that with a lot of room to spare. My Jaguars prediction for this week versus the Packers, I think this might be one of the ugliest games the Jaguars have during this season. I don't think this is going to be close at all. I have very similar feelings to that Chargers game, which the Chargers game turned out to be okay. Close in the fourth quarter. I think this is going to be opposite. I'm going to go with a score of 38 to, I think, 20. 38-20 here is what I'm going to be looking at. So Jaguars not going to be really in this game from the beginning. 38-20, I think Aaron Jones is going to feast. I think Devontae Adams is going to feast. Honestly, you could see Aaron Rodgers throw 5 touchdowns in this game against the Jaguars defense that has shown to be pretty awful throughout the first 9 weeks of the season. So that's what I got to say about the Jaguars, 38-20. All of Poojie Parlay NFL picks will be coming out on Sunday morning. Go follow Poojie Parlay on Instagram for all of my picks, whether it's college football, when MLB comes back, NBA, NHL comes back, NFL, things like that, NASCAR, golf. NASCAR just finished up, but we do have the Masters going on right now. And follow Poojie Parlay on Twitter, as well as JPooj17 on Twitter. So until next time, go enjoy your weekend. Go enjoy some great NFL content. Got kicked off last night with a great divisional matchup between the Titans and the Colts. And I am going to continue enjoying my time here on vacation, this beautiful view here in Orlando, Florida. Until next time, go make this world a better place. Take care.
How can I be the man when you're the man? How can I be the man when you're the man? How can I be the man when you're the man?
Be sure to follow our show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and other podcast streaming services, as well as subscribe to our YouTube channel to check out unique video elements for each interview.